to be on time, and I'll set up YouTube channel, and then I'll do a brief introduction. So
Good evening, Brother David. This is Hadikishore.
Hello, brother.
How are you?
All fine. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. It's still unmoderated, not moderated. So if anyone wants to say, take the floor, please. I'm just trying to set up the YouTube.
I would like to just make a second sound check, if possible. How do you hear me now? Perfect.
Sounds good. Sounds good now.
Just a second. And how do you hear me now?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay. We're gonna leave it this way then.
Yeah, it is still kind of low sounds or low noises, but it's much better than it was in the beginning. Okay, someone is driving. I guess it's here. So yeah, let's keep it there. All right, just I'll share the links for everyone if anyone wants to share it. There is the YouTube link if you want to share it.
Good evening, David.
Good evening, Josen. Okay, now we have informed everyone that we have started. So with your kind permission, I will now mute everyone without the possibility to unmute yourself. So we have uninterrupted session because I see a lot of new names and it will be safer to that way. Brother Dimiter, please unmute yourself. I'm sending a request. Yeah, there you are. Okay, just let's start with it. I think there are some joining, but we'll take care of them later. So, Kamar Jobat, that is hello in Georgian. This is welcome to Sapere Aude number 104. Today we will be discussing, we will have the lecture on brief history of Freemasonry in Bulgaria. In continuation of the series of public lectures, we have the honor to host Brother Dimiter Mandradjiev, and he's a Master Mason in the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Free Accepted Masons in Bulgaria. For 5 years, he has served as secretary of the Akhenaton Lodge 043, as well as international secretary and public relations secretary of the Grand Lodge. He also has consecutively had 1 term in office as judge in the Grand Fraternal Court and 1 term as a member of Grand Rituals Committee of the Grand Lodge in Bulgaria. His interest towards esoteric knowledge comes not only from from being part of the most esoteric lodge, Akhenaton, in the jurisdiction of Bulgaria, but also strives from his knighthood affiliations as Grand Master of Ceremonies of the Supreme Military Order of Knights Templar of Jerusalem, Grand Priory of Bulgaria. Born in the city of Wisdom, Sofia, capital of Bulgaria, raised in the Middle East states of Egypt and Iraq, specialized his academic studies in different universities in Europe with degrees in political sciences, international relations, MBA. Brother Dimiter has always been fascinated and intrigued by the beauty of the entanglement of cultures, philosophies, and concepts for life, God, and the invisible for the eyes. Prominent member of the Bulgarian Social Society, he continues to receive greetings and congratulations on various initiatives, projects, and social movements that he has created and developed so far. Regularly gives financial stimulus, material commodities, personal time for charity causes, ideas, and projects. Has been part for 15 years of Rotary International and currently in the Rotary Club Sofia capital. So later on, I will share Dimiter's Facebook links. You should have received it through invitation letter, but just in case, if anyone missed it, you'll have opportunity to get it in the public chat. So once again, I thank you so much, Brother Dimiter, for this short notice change and accommodation of some urgency that Sapere Aude has been faced to some personal issues in Portugal. But anyway, we managed to settle it, and despite your, I guess, very interesting evening, you managed to be with us, and thank you for that. Once again, I'll remind everyone that we don't discuss religious, political, or interjurisdictional issues in Sapere Aude. We understand that when we tackle national focuses, would it be in Bulgaria, in Latin America, in Europe, or everywhere, there might be issues, but that considering that we always try to be very neutral, academic in our discussions, and we understand that we want to learn, and this forum is just a learning forum, and everyone is welcome to share their part, their information, whatever they feel will enlighten the audience and educate the audience that gathers here. So taking that into account, and I will remind everyone that every single statement made, would it be by the host, the speaker, or any participant, is of individual nature, unless it is emphasized that this statement is official statement of any institution, whether it be Masonic or non-Masonic. Otherwise, we are just here as individuals who want to learn more. There are many things going on around the world, histories happening, practices of different rites. So we just want to learn more. So, and one more thing, which I always, time to time, I try to put it on the records, that virtual order of Sapere Aude is not an institution by itself. It's just a nice labeling to be well or easily identified, while a person, individual or institutional, tries to find out where these lectures, interesting lectures, are out there on a global scale. So our purpose of naming VOSA, Virtual Order of Sapere Aude, was only symbolic, and there is no structure or GM or any officers or anything in VOSA. So this is VOSA, what we are doing right now. Just to make sure for everyone. Of course, we do belong to different jurisdictions. Myself, I belong to GL of Georgia, GL of Lithuania, but I do not, on Sapere Aude, I do not represent their positions, or I don't spread out their official standpoints on anything. So just to make sure, because we've been discussing this several times over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So just making sure the viewer in future understands that this is just learning platform. Okay, having said that, I would kindly invite Brother Dimiter to take the floor, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Brother David. Good morning, good day, and good evening to all the brothers, sisters, and non-Masonic affiliates participants in the Sapere Aude number 104 here in Zoom and also on YouTube. Thank you very much for this opportunity to deliver a brief historical lecture of what is the Freemasonic movement in Bulgaria in terms of the past maybe 200 years. First of all, I would like to share my screen now, Brother David. Okay. Okay, did everybody see the screen?
Yes, screen is there. Just put it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Now, this is a joint presentation. I'll be making the delivery of this presentation. I'll be speaking most of the time. However, the most worshipful immediate past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria, Brother Plamen Matev, who is also here with us, will put valuable input from time to time in the presentation. And let's commence. Now, I'm going to be brief, as I said, because it's Sunday night in Bulgaria, maybe it's Sunday morning somewhere, and basically on Sunday after a very big Saturday and a feast for one, it's not wise to move forward with a 2-3 hour lecture. So basically the contents of this presentation concern 6 items, as you see them on your screen: the brief history of Bulgarian states at the current geographic territory. Item number 2 will be the brief introduction to Bogomilism and Dinovism. Later you get to understand what this means. Item number 3 is the 3 significant time frames of Freemasonic endeavors in Bulgaria. Basically before the liberation of Bulgaria, after the liberation of the Kingdom of Bulgaria, and after the fall of communism in 1989. Item number 4, we're going to shed some light on the problematic situations in the period 1992-2015. Item number 5 will be a presentation for the activities in favor of the Brethren and the Bulgarian Society by the Freemasons from the Grand Lodges that are on this jurisdiction. Item number 6 will be the Grand Lodges in Bulgaria and the National United Grand Lodges Association. Then we'll have a short, maybe a long Q&A session, and then the reference gratitude and contacts. I move forward. Item number 1, brief history of Bulgarian states at the current geographical territory. Now, this is an attempt to squeeze 1300 years of history in one PowerPoint slide. You do understand that 1300 years cannot be squeezed very easily in one slide, but anyways, this is an attempt. Now, back in 681 was the first mention of the first so-called Bulgarian state at this territory, or should I put it to be more correct and precise, in a part of what is now Bulgaria. Later, in 864, Orthodox Christianity was introduced, and also the Bulgarian alphabet, the Glagolitic and the Cyrillic. Together with the religion, many state-funded missionaries started the spread to north and east of Bulgaria. Basically, the Cyrillic and Glagolitic alphabet, together with Orthodox Christianity, were moved to territories which nowadays we may refer to other sovereign states. I don't want to say which ones, but you do understand for which states I'm talking about. Now, this presentation, as you see, was stripped from every possible map, every possible picture which might infringe territorial view of what is who in history and so on, and because we live on a crossroad. But the Balkan Peninsula, Bulgaria, is on a crossroad between many nations, and a lot of energy and a lot of ideas and a lot of attempts to do this and that. Later, in 1018 to 1185, we had the Byzantine Empire to rule over the Bulgarian Empire. Basically, that was when, in 1018, the first Bulgarian Empire was demolished. However, in 1185, the formation of the second Bulgarian state was instituted, and it lasted until 1422, when the Ottoman finally won over all the remaining territorial states, so-called states that were there in so-called Bulgaria. Now, in history lessons in school, we were taught 1396. However, 1422 is the most precise date for which the second Bulgarian state lasted until. Later, in 1878, during the one of the numerous Russian-Turkish wars, the liberation of Bulgaria and the formation of the third Bulgarian state took place. Now, for that time, the Bulgarian people are and the Bulgarian nation is thankful to all the states we are neighboring with currently, because they helped us in our liberation movement. In 1885, the unification with the leftover over territory, Eastern Romania, took place. Basically, when 1878 happened, there were two Bulgarias. One was called the Principality of Bulgaria, something like a state, but not exactly. And the other was Eastern Romania, which was basically an autonomous region in the Ottoman Empire. Though the two territories were mostly with Bulgarians inhabited, later in 1885, as I stated, the unification of the two territories took place. And so later on during the years, 1903, the independence was proclaimed, and so on, so on, so on. Now, in 1945 until 1989, socialism and communism was the ruling ideology in Bulgaria. 2004, we joined NATO. 2007, we joined EU. Now, this is very, very brief, as I said, one slide. Later, I'm going to mention some other details. Next one. Brief introduction to Bogomilism and Genovism. Now, Bulgaria, as I have written here, is more of an idea. It's a philosophy. When we state Bulgarians, we don't mean particularly ethnic people who are Bulgarians. We mean people who go by the idea to be a Bulgarian. This idea is a philosophy which, during the centuries, develops into very different angles, into very different roots. Now, there was an idea in the 10th century, which was Christian neo-Gnostic or dualist sect, which was founded by the first Bulgarian Empire by the priest named Bogomil. Now, this was during Tsar Peter I in the 10th century, as I said. And these guys basically stated that you don't need priesthood, you don't need to build temples because the temple is in you. And you do not need to go and your financial material support to the priesthood. Now, having in mind that Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, was introduced almost 150 years prior to this event to happen, the state wasn't very supportive of this new philosophy which came into Bulgaria, so they started to fiercely to try to wipe it out. So these guys moved to Kievan Rus, to Bosnia, to Dalmatia, to Serbia, to Italy, to France, mainly the Qatar region, and they started taking part into other types of ritual work, other types of organizations, some of which until today are mentioned in many interesting esoteric and non-esoteric fraternities, brotherhood, sisterhoods, whatever. The next idea which came into existence was not 10 centuries ago, but merely 100 years ago. That was the so-called Denovism, or also called the Universal White Brotherhood. It's a religious movement founded in Bulgaria in the early 20th century by Peter Dynov and established in France in 1937 by Omram Mikhail Ivanov, one of his followers. Now, the group proposes, as you see, that Christian esotericism, characterized by a number of practices, including prayer, meditation, breathing exercises, yoga of nutrition, and panarhythmy. Universal refers to humans' ability to understand universal concepts about life. It speaks to the idea that people can expand their consciousness with these concepts that extend to more than just one person or group. White is the highest spiritual symbol, which is the synthesis of all colors, being the manifestations of the soul's virtues. Brotherhood is meant to indicate that the Universal White Brotherhood's teachings are for every human being, no matter what community, religion, or group they belong to. The Universal Brotherhood, White Brotherhood, believes that their teachings are for everyone so that they can expand their consciousness and embrace a virtuous spirituality. Why did I put these two philosophies in front of you? As I stated, we are living on a territory that has foreseen a lot of empires rise and fall, a lot of battles, a lot of energy moves between east and west, north and south in this region. So these ideas and philosophies are embodied in different ways during the centuries. As you saw, 10 centuries ago, there was one idea. Now, 100 years ago, there's another idea. I'm coming to Freemasonry in this way to understand why we embraced Freemasonry. Now, later on during the years, the three significant timeframes of Freemasonic endeavors in Bulgaria. Now, Freemasonry for Bulgarians is a way for progress: personal, social, national, universal. On the comedy side, sometimes more personal than it has to be, but that's another story. Before the liberation of Bulgaria is the sub-item, which I'm going to explain now. Now, Freemasonry was mostly a game, should I put it, for non-Bulgarians, but slowly many Bulgarians found the way to the temple, and the craft was used as a mean for supporting the national liberation movement and later for the formation of the third Bulgarian state. We're talking about the years in the 19th century and beyond the 19th century. Basically, the whole liberation movement, when you go into the organization, the chain of command, the ideas, the secrecy, the secret signs that they were using, the Bulgarians that were fighting for the liberation back then, they took it from Freemasonic lodges. We didn't have our lodges, we didn't have any Grand Lodge at that time before we were liberated, and all the national liberation movement committees, should I put it, they acted as Freemasonic lodges because, by the way, the so-called, in Bulgarian language, chitališta, or should I put it, something that is quasi a library, quasi an opera house, a theater house, quasi a place for ritual work, they were actually built by Freemasonic lodges. Neither they were, it doesn't matter whether they were Bulgarian or not Bulgarian, they were built by them. So in 1805, 1807, a document from the head of the French consulate, Colonel mentions a lodge in the city of Vidin. Again, this is prior to the liberation of Bulgaria, 1878. 70 years earlier, we have a document which mentions that there's a lodge in the city of Vidin. Now, this is the oldest document that we have for the lodge in the territory of Bulgaria, working actually and doing something. Later in 1830, again in a Danube River city, Vidin is a Danube River, Ruse, the city, the second one I'm talking about, is also on the Danube. There was an attempt to consecrate a Bulgarian-only lodge by the brother Archimandrite Ephraim. This didn't have a fruitful effect, it didn't happen, but he was later initiated in the French Ovid Lodge in Chisinau in 1820. Now, in 1869, there were two major structures formed. One was the so-called Young Bulgaria. Basically, it was the, it extended its roots to like Young Italia, Young Turkey. You know, this movement of Young Italia, Young Turkey, we had in 1869 Young Bulgaria, which, by the way, was founded not in nowadays Bulgaria, but in Romania, because nowadays Bulgaria still didn't exist at that time. And also, we have the, nowadays what we call the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, was founded like a lodge, and it was called Bulgarian Literary Society in Brăila. Brăila is a city in Romania, and there this lodge was consecrated. It had another name, but officially it was the Bulgarian Literary Society, which nowadays we call the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, something like the Royal Academy of Sciences of the United Kingdom. Now, up to 1878, many prominent ethnic Bulgarians were initiated in lodges in Constantinople, Bucharest, Leipzig, Paris, Odessa, and other cities. We still didn't have our own Bulgarian lodge. During the 1877-1878 Russian-Turkish Liberation War, many field and wartime lodges, mainly Romanian ones, by the way, Romanian field lodges and wartime lodges were consecrated, and thus many Bulgarians were initiated in them. So basically, our northern neighbor, Romania, helped with the Freemasonic movement at that time for the spread of Freemasonry. Now, after the liberation of the Kingdom of Bulgaria in 1879, this is a very important year. On the 21st of February, the brother, which we call nowadays the father of Freemasonry in Bulgaria, Ivan Vedra, leads and guarantees for 3 Bulgarians from the city of Ruse, again on the Danube River between Bulgaria and Romania, in the Heliopolis Lodge, in Bucharest. Later, he leads another 3 more initiates in the same lodge. Now, having 3 and 3 plus 1 makes 7. At that moment, we had 7 ethnic Bulgarian master masons that were now available to form the first lodge. On March the 20th, the Grand Orient of Portugal confirmed the documents for a regular lodge in Bulgaria, and in February 18th, 1880, with a delegation from Romania present, the Balkan Star Lodge was consecrated. Now, this is a lodge which worked in Bulgaria under the registered warrant number 134, 1831, with registration number 134, from March 31st, 1879, with the worshipful master, Brother Ivan Veda. That's why we call this guy the father of Freemasonry in Bulgaria. By the way, during this research, I went into the archives of the United Grand Lodge of England and found out that Ivan Veda was initiated in the Oriental Lodge 687. Oriental Lodge, by the way, was it's with warrant number, as I said, 687, was consecrated in 1856 in Constantinople, Turkey, under the working in the United Grand Lodge of England. So we may say that the first Bulgarian Mason, the father of Bulgarian Freemasonry, comes from United Grand Lodge of England, and he is the first worshipful master, as stated here, of Balkan Star Lodge, and we're very proud of this. Now, later during the years, Ivan Veda in 1804 tried to form something like a gun lodge, and he started by asking lodges from Ruse, Svištov, and Bucharest to consecrate in Varna the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. That, by the way, was recognized by the Grand Symbolic Lodge of France. So the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria had a short period of active life as the Portuguese lodges, because you see, some of the lodges that were consecrated were working under the Portuguese, with Portuguese warrants. But later, for some reason, they asked the Grand Symbolic Lodge of France to be the one to consecrate our Grand Lodge. I believe Brother Savino has more information on this, and he will later comment on this. So I'm going to ask him later to help out with this information. You'll get to know why later in this presentation. Now, the Brotherhood itself, the fraternity itself, the lodges were very active since 1917 until 1939, 1940. The Bulgarian Red Cross, the decision to form and to establish the Bulgarian Red Cross was made in Lodge Brotherhood in 1885. Later, sorry, not in 1885, it's later, the lodge itself started preparations in 1885. Anyways, this is a mistake in the presentation. Until 1930, no lodge was active, and in 1913, 1916, the Zarel Lodge was formed under registration number 416, the Grand Lodge of France, and in 1970, the Grand Symbolic Lodge of Bulgaria was formed and gained worldwide recognition instantly. Now, apart from the Bulgarian Red Cross, other big monumental institutions were formed by the lodges. The first university, and nowadays the biggest university and the most prominent university in Bulgaria, the Sofia University, was formed due to an act and decision of a lodge. The Rotary Club movement was introduced in Bulgaria in 1993, again because there was a lodge meeting in which it was decided that we will have also the Rotary idea here. Now, there are many other initiatives. I told you, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. Later, when we were liberated, we had our own state. The Bulgarian Literary Society in Brăila moved to Bulgaria, and so we started our Bulgarian Academy of Sciences again because it was a Freemasonic activity. So in 1940, very tragic year, should I put it, for Bulgarian Freemasonry, and not only for Freemasonry, every type of friendship organization, fraternal organization, business organization, anything that wasn't under the direct supervision of the state was banned. That's because in 1940 there was the so-called National Protection Act introduced, voted upon, and during the years of the Second World War we did not have Freemasonry. The Freemasonic activities were banned, the Rotary activities were banned, every type of esoteric gathering or non-esoteric fraternal whatsoever activity was banned. So later, after the Second World War finished, though this act was taken out of the agenda of the Bulgarian society, communism said, well, in 1944, well, Freemasons are bad. Purely said this was what was in fact stated. So again, in 1944, 4 years later, in the same year in which we had the National Protection Act taken out, we had a decision that Freemasonry should not be viable, should not exist in now communist Bulgaria. So this is what happened until communism. Now, later on, during the years, after the fall of communism, in this period of 45 years, no Rotary, no communism, no fraternal organizations, no Freemasonry, nothing except Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, Sofia University, and Bulgarian Red Cross. Basically, this was what we had as institutions that were left untouched by communism because they already served another purpose. But communism said, okay, no Freemasonry at all. In the midst of the 1989, the Berlin Wall fall. Later on, communism itself started to demolish itself. In 1992, two lines of Freemasonic activities started to unveil themselves in Bulgaria. One line, the first line, was by German Freemasons and by German lodges. The second line was by Masons and lodges from Yugoslavia. Now, the Grand Master of Yugoslavia in 1992 tried to form a Grand Lodge in Bulgaria. However, it was without a decision from the Grand Lodge of Yugoslavia and against the demand of the United Grand Lodges of Germany that they are to consecrate a regular new Grand Lodge in Bulgaria. Later on, in 1995, 1996, the two lines, the German line and the Yugoslav line, united themselves and elected a Grand Officers Board and a Grand Master, who was Brother Ivan Stavrev, for the consecration and formation of a regular Grand Lodge that was to be named Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria, with light from the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Germany, supported by the American Canadian Grand Lodge of Germany, officially by the patent and decree from the United Grand Lodges of Germany. 1997. Now, this is our founding date of the first regular Freemasonic Grand Lodge in Bulgaria, after 1989, of course. September 21st, 22nd. Now, September 22nd is a very, very big day in Bulgaria. Basically, it's the Independence Day of Bulgaria. So, the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria was consecrated on September 21st and 22nd. The first Grand Master was installed, as I stated before, Most Worshipful Brother Ivan Stavrev. The ritual of the installation was presided by the Most Worshipful Brother Rainer J. Schicke, the Grand Master of the UGLS, United Grand Lodges of Germany, and the Most Worshipful Brother Klaus Hornefer, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Germany. There were official delegations from the Freemasonic entities at that time from Germany, Austria, Italy, and Greece. Now, the next item are the problematic situations in the period of 1992 until 2015. Again, this is only facts. We will not go into politics. We're just going to mention that, like every family, every nation, every Freemasonic entity has its problems. We move forward in the years, and this is why we're going to just mention what has happened and where we are now. In 1992, as stated prior, the Yugoslav Grandmaster, without a decision from the Grand Lodge of Yugoslavia and against the view of the United Grand Lodges of Germany, tried to form a Grand Lodge in Bulgaria. This attempt was declared as highly irregular by the United Grand Lodges of Germany. For more information, you can visit our website and our YouTube channel. You will see Rainer Schicke, you will see Klaus Hornefer stating that this is an irregular move in decision and action from the Yugoslav Grand Lodge. However, until today, we continue to have great fraternal relations with the Serbian Grand Lodges, no matter which Grand Lodge that is. In 1994, 1995, the unsuccessful attempt and irregular actions further on by some members in our back then two united now lines from the German lodges, from the Yugoslav lodges, led to non-Masonic, led to a grand meeting, and from the Yugoslav line, there were 3 members who were excluded from their membership due to non-Masonic conduct. Now, as I stated, this led to unification with the German line, and so in 1997, the GOAFM in Bulgaria was consecrated. In 1995, however, we should mention that in the period 1995-1997, the 3 excluded members formed a same name entity as our entity back then, which at that time was called GLB. They formed another entity, which again was called GLB, but with no Freemasonic connection. However, they claimed legitimacy worldwide and continued to act as a regular lodge with only 3 persons, 4 members in a Grand Lodge. Now, I'm not going to comment on this. This is just facts. Everybody can read, watch, whatever. Later, in the year 2000, we had a very big problem in the year 2000 because the Grand Lodge, AFAM in Bulgaria, adopted a decision on St. John Day in the beginning of the year in January. I think it was the 6th or 7th of January, to form the Supreme Council of the 33rd and last degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite in Bulgaria, with the help and support of the Mother Supreme Council, the Southern Jurisdiction. This was viewed by a handful of brothers as politically incorrect. So you see, politics came into Freemasonry in Bulgaria in the very beginning of Freemasonry in Bulgaria after 1992. And these brothers viewed this as politically incorrect, and the upcoming biannual communication in November the same year, the year 2000, forgery was committed, and this was proven in court later, and breach of the rules of procedure were carried out by them in order to gain the position of a Grand Master and other Grand Officers' positions, and to put a halt on the preparations for the installation of the Supreme Council 33rd and last degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish. This didn't happen. 2 months later, 1 year exactly after the decision in the year 2000, you see it with a little font. This was carried out January 6th or 7th, 2001. The Supreme Mother Council and the NATO Orient came, NATO Valley came, and as you see, everything is written. I'm not going to read this. So we had moved forward at that time. In the years 2000-2004, as stated, after the forgery and misconduct at the biannual communication, they were brought to court, and the decision to have a revote was adopted. However, a couple of brethren were not satisfied with the decision of the court and left the GL-AFM in Bulgaria. Later in the years, they united with the excluded from membership back those 3 guys that I mentioned in 1995, and together formed the same name entity as the GL-AFM in Bulgaria, which lasted until 2004. Later, it was renamed to another entity, which now is an active regular Grand Lodge in the jurisdiction. During the years 2004-2010, the GLAFM in Bulgaria and the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria started talks, however, had pauses also, on the idea for unification and joint actions for the betterment of Freemasonry in the jurisdiction. Sporadic movements were made by brothers or whole lodges changed their membership from one obedience to another and vice versa during the years. The GLAFM in Bulgaria proposed an umbrella organization, but the UGLB did not acknowledge any interest in this idea back then. So you see, we were trying to move forward, and after the 2010, we started moving much more quicker. On May 17th, 2010, three craft lodges, part of the GLF in Bulgaria, fulfilled the Freemasonic procedure, basically went by the book. They did everything that the Constitution stated they have to do. Basically, it was done the right way, and asked for the restart and reinstallment of the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria by the Grand Lodge of France, installed in Bulgaria on June 9th, 1917. And it ceased to exist with the National Protection Act from 1940 due to the partnership with the Axis Alliance. The first Grand Master was the most worshipful Brother Savino Batanov, who is now a guest in this Zoom meeting, Bulgarian national who started his Freemasonic affiliation in the United Grand Lodges of Germany. The installation was on October 17th, 2010 by the Grand Lodge of France. So Brother Savino, I think, will tell us more later in this discussion. 2013, June 6th, Brothers, part of four craft lodges, split from the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria and proclaimed that they will restore the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Bulgaria. This happened on October the 11th, 2013. The Grand Lodge of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Bulgaria was proclaimed by four craft lodges. The Grand Master is the most worshipful Brother Nikolai Stanchev from that day until today. Later, what happened was that we had an issue in our Grand Lodge in 2014, 2015. In October, brothers from many constituent lodges in our Grand Lodge asked for the resignation of the Grand Master, back then the most worshipful Brother Valery Mitkov, due to acts and works and engagements which didn't have Masonic conduct. On December 14th, at the Grand Lodge Grand meeting, also some constituent lodges voted for the unification with the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. However, this voting procedure by Constitution has to be approved with a second revote at the second Grand Lodge General Meeting, which has to be consecutive. Such carried out according to the Constitution, to the rules, and thus the motion failed. So in the year 2016, after we couldn't make the unification with the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, we started the preparation in the year 2015. We started the preparation to move into another type of unification, or should I put it, sharing of the Orient, sharing of the jurisdiction, some type of unity to be formed, some type of real fraternal activities between the Grand Lodges. And so on June 18th, 2016, the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria, together with the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Bulgaria and the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, united in a Grand Lodge union named National United Grand Lodges of Bulgaria. The entity is open for the fourth Grand Lodge to join. Now, this is a very interesting umbrella organization. Basically, the three Grand Lodges share the jurisdiction, share the Orient. We work together, and we recognize each other, and we don't infringe between ourselves any lodges. So we have mutual work, mutual rituals, and so on, so on, so on. Brother Plamen Mateev can say a few words later if he deems that is needed. Now, item number 5, as I stated in the beginning, is the activities in favor of the Brethren and Bulgarian social society. Freemasonry has reborn Bulgaria a couple of times, as you see. Freemasonic affiliation, though some brothers see it as personal gain, it's much more than personal. It's a way of life for many brothers. It's a way to give something back. It's a way to bring a much more better civil society, a much more better Bulgarian social fabric, the nation to be united for the activities like statesmanship, education initiatives, charity activities, humanitarian programs, anti-discrimination on national global scale, sports activities, academic activities. I believe here, Brother Most Worshipful Plamen Mateev will want to say some words. Brother Plamen.
Should I unmute him?
Brother Plamen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you please state a couple of the activities which you deem most important from the 4 gun lodges in Bulgaria for a couple of the points that we have shared here?
Fine. First of all, extremely activity was concentrated on anti-discrimination on a national and global scale, since we received a very hard attack from National Assembly in Bulgaria, confirming that they have some problems with brothers in jurisdiction sector to be on some position if they are Freemasons. It was not accepted from us, and it was some special actions taken to receive generally definition given by the Special Commission of Anti-Discrimination, which is existing in any European Union country. We receive a positive answer that it is a type of discrimination, and it was sent back to the Council of the Ministry and Ministry of Justice to be added in a new version of document for jurisdiction law in Bulgaria. This is, of course, we receive a lot of support, especially in conference in Grandmaster in North America, also all over the world. But this process seems to me, looking on what happened now in England or in USA, United States, is continuing. It should be not solved by actions, even of one country. Could be necessary to have some joint action of all Freemasonry Brotherhood all over the world against such attempts. It's my opinion personally. Regarding education initiatives, we are using as much as possible special education programs of any grant lodges which accepted us, starting from California, finishing to Kentucky, including New York, including British Columbia, Yukon, including Alaska, including all grant lodges with which we are working very close. Charity activities is normally working by using some special initiatives by the President of the Republic, also local activities of any craft lodge in our craft lodge, and also trying to communicate with other organizations to reach better results in this. Humanitarian programs, fine. It's some same activities like in charity. According sport activities, there exist at least 2 or 3 competitions. One is hardly by tennis because I'm participating in this, but I know it's also for chess and some others. Regarding academic activities, it's so-called ongoing future projects. We are trying to follow United Grand Lodge of England in their attempts to have some type of education for a Freemasonry, like separate course of in academic education. Could be possible to have success, but could be not. Depends on how we will present ourselves in the society. Did I miss something? It's okay. Okay, if somebody wants additional information, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Most Worshipful Brother Plamen. So you see, it's not only the Grand Lodge of ancient free and accepted Masons. The 4 Grand Lodges in the jurisdiction do a lot of activities in these areas. Currently, by the way, we have people from brothers from the 4 Grand Lodges. I was thinking whether there were 4 or 3. I know that there are 4 now. I recalled this from today in the morning. We have brothers from the 4 Grand Lodges also dealing and helping for the COVID situation. They take time, they take from their personal wealth to donate it, to donate time, to donate their skills, to donate their wealth in order to bring down the crisis situation and the level of seriousness that it causes in the Bulgarian social society. And this is done by the 4 Grand Lodges, no matter the fact that 3 of them are together, 1 is not working together. The brothers in the jurisdiction work together, no matter what the Grand Lodges see and act on an official level. The brothers in the jurisdiction over here work together for better social society and for the betterment of the people and for better Freemasonic activities as a whole. Now, when we were working on this presentation, we were very keen upon what we're going to state about statesmanship. Basically, we try to turn the concept of when someone is elected for a position, a cabinet member of any kind, you know, a lot of people, a lot of organizations start asking him to start joining them, to be affiliated with them, and so on, so on, so on. We're trying to build better builders. We're working with young people. We're working with people that have the skills, or even if they don't have the skills, they have the idea that they want to do something good for Freemasonry, or for the state, or for the people, or for whatever meaningful, progressive purpose they view is better for the world. Now, it looks like it's very idealistic, it's very utopian, but hey, is a bold and righteous idea to me. I mean, it's a guiding light that can never be extinguished, Freemasonry. I believe we all share this view. And it's an opportunity to move one step forward to the understanding for what is life, what is liberty, what is the pursuit of happiness. So let me move forward with item number 6. As I stated, the 4 Grand Lodges and the National United Grand Lodges Association. You can see it's a brief schematic view upon the National United Grand Lodges of Bulgaria Association and the 4 Grand Lodges, who is with who, how we work, but nevertheless, as I stated, the brothers and jurisdiction work together. Whatever one Grand Lodge does on a national scale, on a national level, all the brothers are invited, no matter what it is. This may be in contrary to some views and to some concepts, but it is what Freemasonry is all about. I mean, we are brothers. So the next item is the Q&A. Let me finish by stating this. As St. Paul admonished us, I stated this prior to Brother David, let us not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. This is from Romans 12:21. Thank you very much for this opportunity to make this lecture. Now I will address any questions together with Brother Plamen, and I would like, if possible, Brother Savino to tell us a couple of sentences about the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, how it was formed in 2010, if possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Brother Dimiter. Brother Savino, if you want to speak, I can just, I need to find you. Just 1 second. I'll risk with new names that there are no intruders, because the chat has been quite all time. So, Brother Savino, you can unmute yourself now.
Yes, I
Yeah, please.
followed the presentation with big interest, and I am very willing to help, especially because I was part of the Bulgarian Freemasonry from the time of 2007 until 2016. And personally, I was installed as the third Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, mentioned several times in this presentation, actually, which is the first Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, the very first Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, consecrated 1917 by the Grand Lodge de France, okay? Now, if you want me to give you an exact answers, following the recommendation of Brother Bob Cooper, that his history has to be always supported by documents, I will kindly ask you to give me a opportunity to give one lecture on that matter, because I'm not prepared now to, with all these documents that will support my statements. Brother David, do you think that this would be possible in the next time? Since I saw the program for the November is full.
This year is fully packed. Soon we will start from New Year on, and let us negotiate the date. I mean, as long as we know that many things might be sensitive, but as you said, we're trying here to keep kind of trying to be beyond politics and without discussing who's right, wrong, or I like you, I don't like you. Let's discuss the date, and I don't see. Just why not? Just let's see when you how much time do you need for preparation, and sit down with the calendar. So yeah, I mean,
Well, I need 4 to
from my
5 days, not more.
Let's discuss logistics after the lecture. I would
Okay.
prefer without. I mean,
even
it's
faster.
too technical. Yeah,
And
let's
there
go.
is a second option if there is a second option if there is no time in the calendar now. Whenever the time comes, let's say in 1 month or in 2 months,
Yep.
what we can do is to take these passages from the PowerPoint presentation of Brother Dimiter Mandradjiev, where he is stating about the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. So we will refresh the question to the brethren, and then I will insert my comments and my historical proofs, because you know the brethren and the participants can remember what he was talking about. Is that okay?
I don't see any problem as long as we keep
Good.
it beyond politics or beyond any kind of going into details which might kind of set up the harmony here.
I am.
The rest, I'm
Yeah.
fine. If Dimiter is fine, I can share this file in the group, and if anyone wants to have it, they can have it.
I'm just going to send it again to you, Brother David, because today I was going through it and I found a little date.
Yeah, mistake that you had. Yeah.
I was typing November anyways. So it was a little mistake. I'm going to send it to you again so you can spread it among the brothers.
Okay, just to return to the topic today, Brother Savino, you want to share anything, or we just discussed that you will do it later on?
Well, only one thing, very short, brief, that I want to discuss is that my goal and my dream was always to see the Bulgarian Freemasonry united. Although I'm living now abroad and I belong to another jurisdiction, but nevertheless, I think that this is the genuine and honest wish to every Bulgarian to see the Freemasonry in his country united. So we will work in this direction, and I personally promise you that we will. And I will try to, and not try, but I will put aside any reasons for conflict or any attempts to get into interjurisdictional disputes. So this is definitely what we have to do, to put only academical form of our discussion.
Definitely on Sapere Aude, we just try to be as neutral as possible, just trying to learn specifics to the extent it is not because individually people always have much better options to discuss into details. All right, Brother Dimiter, we now can start Q&A session because there are questions in the chat and I also have some questions. So let's give floor to Brother Mircea first and then we start.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everyone. Brother Dimiter, great presentation.
Thank you very much, Brother Mircea.
About the Romanian link, I can confirm it because I researched it for my presentation, so that's accurate. Don't worry about it. I only have a question about, you mentioned there that, let's say, the bringing into Bulgaria of the Red Cross and the Rotary were decided in a lodge meeting. Are there any minutes of the meeting that describe all the talks?
Yes, because this is meant to be a brief history presentation, I didn't go into taking photos, scanning or whatever and putting them in the presentation. As you saw, there was no pictures whatsoever on the logos of the Grand Lodges. Yes, there are meetings for the Bulgarian Red Cross. It was a decision by the Lodge Brotherhood. There are minutes from the meeting of the Lodge it's out of my head now, that took the decision to introduce Rotary International in 1933. There are meeting minutes from the Lodge. Just a second. Brother Plamen is here. Yes, Brother Plamen, could you remember and could you recall which was the lodge which decided to establish the Sofia University, St. Clement Ohridsky? Which was the lodge? I believe Alexander Theodorov Balan was the worshipful master of that lodge, but I cannot recall which was that lodge. We have it on the website, by the way. Go on the website. I'm sharing the website of our Grand Lodge, and if you be patient, like another week, we'll have the whole Bulgarian history of Freemasonry translated in terms of the year for which you're asking about. But anyways, Brother Pamen, do you remember which was the lodge?
Acacia.
Acacia. Okay, thank you. Lodge Acacia in English, Acacia in Bulgarian. Lodge Acacia was the one which decided for the Sofia University. Did I answer your question, Brother Mircea?
Yes, absolutely, and I will wait for the translation and everything, and I'll take you up with the meeting because with the minutes of the meetings because it's very interesting. Even though all over the world members of Freemasonry were involved in other organizations and setting them up and so on, they didn't do it in the frame of the lodge and have minutes recorded for that. So at least from my knowledge. So I think that's very interesting. Thank you, brother.
We have that recorded because for the Sofia University, I've seen that recorded. For the Red Cross, also I've seen it. And for Rotary, it's my affiliation with Rotary is 15 years, so I know it also from there. And I think I've also seen it like 10 years ago, but back then I didn't pay so much attention. I was a freshman in Freemasonry. Anyways.
All right, Mircea, any follow-up? Or you're done? Okay, thank you. Brother Jacques is asking if it is possible to know the membership figures of each of the 4 Bulgarian Grand Lodges as well as the number of the lodges they have.
In terms of members?
Yes, how many members does the 4 lodges? You mentioned you are 4 in the association, right? Okay. So okay. I guess he meant that by each and the number of lodges, we could kind of remember that.
In terms that I'm now presenting an unbiased view, I'll say this. On our Grand Lodge website, or the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria, you'll find the number of lodges, constituent lodges that we have. The number of current active members is not a number of our Grand Lodge, is not a number which I can comment on because I don't know it seriously, but it's not my business to know this number. But I know that we have an immediate past Grand Master, Brother Plamen Mateev, who can comment on the number of brothers in our Grand Lodge. About the other 3 Grand Lodges, they have this, their own websites, and I do not know how many brothers they do also have. It's a speculation in every Grand Lodge if I start saying numbers, because actually 2 days ago I was speaking with a brother on very different topics, and we moved into the idea to speak about numbers of brothers in every lodge, and we stamped upon the rock which stated, you both are not correct. I mean, he knew one number, I knew another number, and in terms of correctness, we didn't know. We got to know that neither of us was correct in the number. So I would not like to talk about numbers because this is not something which I know. However, for our Grand Lodge, immediate past Grand Master, Most Lordship Brother Plamen is the one who can speak about this.
980 electronic accounts. It means it's registered brothers, which in total communication, using our system for internal communication, which is electronically working by internet. Roughly,
could you repeat number 3,000 or
980? 980.
980?
Could be more, could be less, but 980 is a fixed electronic post accounts. So it means real people behind this. And could be more because some brothers, they don't want to be registered like active members. They're working, but how to say, prefer to do not make something public.
Yeah, there are also lodges that are very strict upon the first and second degree. I know for sure 2 lodges. The first and second degree brothers in them do not have these accounts. I know this because I'm talking with some brothers who I have guaranteed or led to those lodges. So you're absolutely right, Brother Plamen. It could be more or less. But I didn't know this number. Thank you.
Okay, thank
For
you.
the second lodge is around 450 brothers in lodge in Scottish Rite, and third one is around 150 people, which is Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, which is the third member.
Okay, so 980, 240, and 158.
Yeah, I mean registered.
Yeah.
Which we have like a real accounts.
Yeah, and the question also contained the number of lodges, if you would share.
Yeah, and in Grand Lodge for Ancient and Free and Accepted Masons, it's around 29 working lodges. There exists a big number of lodges which are not with full amount of masters, and they are not registered like operative.
Okay.
For Grand Lodge of Accepted and Scottish Rite, it's roughly around 15 Grand Lodges, 15 lodges, craft lodges, and about Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, there are 3. Seems to me they're working for the 4th, but there are 3.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Yak. If you will have any other questions, I'll go back to one of the slides that you mentioned just to understand correctly. In the beginning, Brother Dimiter, you said that you may Grand Orient of France was the. Hello, do you hear me? Hello? Do you hear me? Am I on?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
We didn't hear anything.
Sorry. I guess it's my something with my connection. So I'll repeat the question. Yeah, in the beginning, you mentioned that Grand Orient de France was the kind of created the Grand Lodge in the beginning. Did I understand correctly? Oops. Okay, I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it. You hear me now? I see you moving. I don't know why my voice is not coming. So my question is, Grand Orient of France created in the first Grand Lodge, you said. So it was 1879 you mentioned, right?
1917. 1917 was the first Bulgarian Grand Lodge consecrated by the Grand Lodge of France.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Prior to that, it was the Portuguese Grand Lodge.
Oh, sorry, it was
Grand.
Portuguese, not the France.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. All right, there are more questions. Brother Eitan is asking if is the Grand Lodge of AFAM in Bulgaria in amity with UGLE, Scotland or Ireland?
Currently not, because we're waiting a decision from United Gun Lodge we have petitioned them in, I sent it here in the chat, just a second. In the year 2001, I think, was it? Just a second. I'm just gonna open it and see what was the year. We have it on our website, by the way. If you go to our website and go to the union panel, and in the last option is recognitions. When you go to recognitions, you have every single Grand Lodge or Grand Orient, any Grand entity, Freemasonic one, we are working with, or we have asked to be in amity with. Now, on the 14th of March 2001, we have the document which we have submitted to the Grand Lodge or United Grand Lodge of England, and you can see it on the website. I'm going to share it once again on the chat. So we're waiting still for official answer. This is the official position of the Grand Lodge for now, our Grand Lodge, upon this matter. However, you can see below the documents news related to work between our Grand Lodge and the United Grand Lodge of England.
So at the moment, you don't have recognition with Scotland, Ireland, or England. That's the answer, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Brother Asu is asking what are the rituals used by the four Grand Lodges?
We have currently the German ritual Shoda. We have the ancient and accepted Scottish, and for some occasions, the Lodge Zarya. It's one of the five first lodges that consecrated the Grand Lodge back in 1996, 1997. Zarya Lodge uses emulation also for on some occasions. Am I missing something out, Brother Plumman? The German, the Scottish, and emulation, something else? I don't believe I'm missing some other ritual. I was in the ritual committee, but anyways, you never know.
No, it's true. In Grand Lodge, we have a multi approach to different rituals. But this is not the same like in Grand Lodge of Bulgaria and in Grand Lodge of Ancient and Scottish Rite. It's completely only Scottish Rite.
Yeah, for example,
Lodge, we have a multi-attempt. Different.
Yeah, for example, my constituent lodge over here, Lodge Akhenaton, in English Akhenaton, in Bulgarian Echnaton, we used to work by the German Shoda ritual until 2012 or 2012, and in the beginning of the year 2012, we moved to ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. So when we do visitations between lodges, It's very interesting. Now, I know that we have non-Masonic participants and viewers. You do have to know the other rituals. So when you come, for example, and become a first, second, and eventually a full-right Freemason, but a Freemason in, for example, Lodge Ekheneton, my lodge, you have to study also the German ritual. Because we may work in the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, but when you visit, for example, the constituent lodge of Most Worshipful Brother Plummen, the Lodge Ascenso Taruf, then you should know how to act in whatever, again, because we're not only brothers here, and you should know what to do during their meeting.
Okay.
Because they work on the German ritual.
Okay, there is a question from Siva Subramanian. Brother, you narrated the Grand Lodge formation history since 1990s, but after the formation of the first craft lodge, why did it take 100 years for a Grand Lodge to be formed?
Could we rephrase this question?
I guess he meant 1890s. Brother
Okay.
Sivas, are you here?
Understood.
You understood the question? Okay.
Yeah. Well, you see, we didn't have, first of all, Bulgaria was liberated in 1878. Until then, we didn't have any, not until then, even 20, 50 years ago, before that, we didn't have any. You saw the first Bulgarian Freemason was Ivan Beda, and he was initiated not in a Bulgarian lodge because he was the first one. He had to be initiated in another lodge, and he was initiated in the Oriental Lodge in Constantinople, UJOE. So it took us a long time because, first of all, we tried to do things slowly but stable. This is a national approach on many things, though it's not that way nowadays. But anyways, we have had a lot of influence by many other powers, should I put it this way, political interests on this territory. You see, in 1 year, there were 2 Grand Lodges in Bulgaria consecrated. I mentioned only the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, but when you look, you can see that there was the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite Lodge, which I didn't mention at all because we don't have enough information. And this is something that it should be talked about by the nowadays ancient and accepted Scottish Rite Grand Lodge in Bulgaria, as, for example, Brother Savino will talk next year for the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. So why did it take so much time? A lot of interest, a lot of influence. I mean, everybody wants you to be in his lodge. Nobody wants to give you the ability to have your own lodge. Apart from the brothers from Romania who did give us this opportunity, and the brothers from Portugal who did help us in the consecration of the first only Bulgarian members lodge. It's a territory of crossroads. It's interests on many levels, even in
Geopolitics,
even in
historical circumstances.
Until today.
Okay, there is a question from Brother Hasu. Are you allowed multiple memberships of all the jurisdictions?
In all in the Grand Lodges.
I suppose, yeah, jurisdictions.
Yes, by the way.
Yeah.
But this is a question for Brother Plummen to answer because he is one of the founding fathers of the National United Grand Lodges of Bulgaria. So he will precisely state how is the opportunity for this.
No problem. Our idea is that they need to work for big national projects. So if they prefer to participate in 2 different Grand Lodges, no problem from us, from our side.
Okay, Brother Arui, floor is yours, and there are other questions in the chat as well.
Thank you very much for your lectures. We talk too much times in the Portuguese, so so I would like to know, because I can share it that I know in the hand of the 19th century. I know because I'm reading the story, and I believe that. But this is the question: in this time, your lodge or your Freemason activity comes under jurisdictions of the Portuguese Freemason. Can you confirm?
Not only. It's something which I stepped upon, but I didn't emphasize. During the liberation movement, up until the year 1878, the members of the national, or as it is in English language, secret committees, secret liberation committees, they were members of different lodges. They were members in lodges in Serbia. They were members in lodges in Romania. They were members in lodges in Greece. They were members of the UGOE, as you saw. They were members in Turkish lodges also. They were members in many different lodges that were active in what is nowadays Bulgaria as a territory, and also in the neighboring states of what is now around us. For Portugal, we have this information. We don't know how this happened. We don't know why. And I believe this is another topic which we can, with your valuable help, Brother Louis, we can move and make some analysis and see if we can go further for our history and for your history in our region. So they worked in many different lodges. However, the first only Bulgarian members lodge was consecrated under the jurisdiction of Portugal.
Yes, but if you want, I'm not be part, because the Grand Orient of Lusitania on this time is irregular. This order existing now, okay, but it's not regular. They are lose the regularity in the beginning of the last century. So I'm member of the only regular Grand Lodge of Portugal. This is the only one existing in Portugal, recognized by the other Grand Lodges. So, but if you want, in case I can help you, because we have a very interesting investigator, and I can share what's happened in this moment of your stories. But if you want to, I can share it. You need to give me time, so because at this time we cannot. Our mobility is stopped because we cannot travel too much regarding the virus. But in the future, in the few days, if you want, I can investigate, and I can try to help you what's really happened in this moment, if you want. So.
Thank you very much. This will be much appreciated, and I will contact you later. Maybe stumbling upon the first part of your expose, maybe that's why they chose to move with France. Brother Savino will be making a lecture, as stated. I see that he was raising a hand, so maybe he wants to state something on this issue.
Okay.
Brother Savino, if you want to follow up, please join in.
Yes, Brother Rui, I want to help you. And of course, all brethren, to understand better the situation with Portugal.
Not too much. I need to investigate.
Yeah, but I can help you, because I already digged in the story how it came that the first charter was given by the Grand Orient of Lusitania. This is exactly what you say, because we have to be also very precise when we are mentioning obediences. Grand Orient, not of Portugal, Grand Orient Lusitania. This is the exact name of the obedience. Lusitania, okay.
Lusitano.
Yeah. We are all speaking different, but we know that we're talking about this particular obedience. Now, having in mind that the father of the Bulgarian Freemasonry, this brother Ivan Vedar, who was mentioned, was member of an English lodge operating in Istanbul, it's very logical that you think that to whom he will asked to create, after the liberation of Bulgaria, to create a lodge in his country. Of course, to his mother, which is the United Grand Lodge of England. But the rejection came because of the structure of these founding members. Unfortunately, Brother Ivan Vedar had 7 Master Masons who were not members of the United Grand Lodge of England or Grand Lodges recognized by the United Grand Lodge of England. They were all, most of them, were initiated in Romania, in Braila, in Bucharest, and so on. And all these lodges to whom they belonged and where they were initiated were not recognized by England. And this is the simple reason why we didn't start it with England, which would be the best for the future of the Bulgarian Freemasonry. So looking around and having in mind also, this is very important to know that Brother Ivan Vedar was a 33rd degree Mason. So he ended up into the, now I went to Lisbon and I saw personally in original this charter, which is in the archives of the Lusitania, okay? The charter was issued by the Supreme Grand Commander, which is very usual in this 19th century, that the Supreme Councils were creating lodges, which was a practice in the French Freemasonry, in Mexican Freemasonry, in Latin American Freemasonry, and that was the fact. The lodge Étoile de Balkan, which is start of Balkans, in 1888 was created with the charter signed by the Supreme Grand Commander of Portugal, not even of the Grand Orient Lusitania, but of the Supreme Council.
So
this is the fact.
In the regular
But,
Grand Lodge, you remember the name? Martin Gia. Because in the part of the slide, our brother Dimiter, they're talking about...
wait. This is now with you, Martin Gia, which I
it's
also
more recently, I know.
Yeah, this is what you're talking about now, the new history. I'm talking about 1888.
Yeah.
And again and again, the charter of the very first lodge, a single lodge, in the city of Russe in 1888 was signed by the Sovereign Grand Commander at that time, 1887. Okay, and 1888, the consecration took place, and we had the very first lodge. And this is also the reason why we couldn't create a Grand Lodge. First of all, because we had only one lodge. Secondly, because this lodge was created by a Supreme Council, and so on and so forth. Until in the beginning of 1912, 1913, the Grand Lodge of France started initiating Bulgarian brothers in their lodges in Paris. Then they moved the charters to Sofia, but I will talk about this in my presentation because this is the historical development of the Bulgarian Freemasonry into the 19th and end of 19th, beginning of 20th centuries.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay, I guess, Rui, your question has been answered.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And again, to just make sure, we've been talking about the very initial, like almost 2 centuries ago events, right? We're not talking about the current situation. Okay, thank you so much. Brother Mircha's question: what is the membership of the membership for the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria that appears on the UGLE website as being in amity with? So do you know the membership of that grand entity?
The number of brothers. The number of brothers.
Well, yeah. What is the membership? So yeah, what is the number of brothers they have?
Norman, I believe, will comment on this. I mean,
if you have information, if not, just we pass by and we'll move on.
Yeah, I have a very, very approximately information. They have more than 120 constituent lodges after the unification, partial unification 2015, I must say. and I think the brethren from Grand Lodge AFM of Bulgaria agree on that. And they have approximately, out of this more than 120 constituent lodges, 2,800 brothers, approximately. We're saying again because this varies every month. New brothers are coming, some are going deceased, or they canceling their membership, they dim it. But this is approximately what is the membership of United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, which is in amity with UGLE and the most of the Grand Lodges.
I'm confirming. This
Okay.
is what I know also.
Okay, answers taken. Let's move on. Under Mussolini, Brother Andrei is asking, were Freemasons in Bulgaria hunted down and persecuted as Hitler did in Germany or in Austria?
Yes. Yes. I mean,
Could you go a bit deeper? If not, that's okay.
you
I
have
mean,
permanent members of
during
you
Mussolini.
have permanent members of the civil society. You have permanent members of the civil society that were hunted down and persecuted because they were raising a toast in the name of the king, the Tsar. That is what was written in one of the working papers, operative papers of an operative who was looking into what the Masonic lodges were doing. Because they were raising a toast for the Tsar, for the king, they are bad people. I mean, seriously, because they're raising a toast. When you don't know Freemasonry, it is very easy to say that something is bad. If
Okay.
Brother Plamen or Brother Savino want to speak upon some particular names,
Brother Flamen, if you want to take the floor, please do. Otherwise, I'll move on. And there is a question. Yeah, please.
Well, it's well-known facts. Talking about history of Bulgarian Freemasonry, they should two dark periods. One is in the Freemasonry was forbidden with a special law during the fascism, and second dark period was when it was done again after liberalization from the fascism in the socialism. so
By the liberators.
we have the same attempts. Doesn't matter who is who. But you see, you can press something politically or economically or whatever, but to press spirit of the people, and they're believing and they're hoping, I'm not sure that it could be happened. That's why we're human beings. If you need the particular names, I can give you a little bit particular, somehow exotic examples.
For the recording purposes.
Chairman of the National Assembly who voted special law that for Freemasonry to be forbidden was a Mason also. Was a Freemason.
That was during the communist period?
During the fascism.
During the fascism.
Fascism.
Yeah.
During fascism.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was good from other side because it was somehow to say preliminary information to the Freemason, and Freemasons cut off everything in a normal way, keeping all documents, keeping all goods, keeping all history.
Brother David, maybe Brother Plamen will elaborate also on this topic. We had, during the Second World War and afterwards, as stated by me and as stated by Brother Plamen, on 2 occasions, Freemasonry to be demonized on a national state level with legislation also. This was also done not because that was the spirit of the communism or fascism. This was done also because Bulgarian Freemasonry was the movement, was the spirit, was the energy which prevented the Bulgarian Jewish society to be exterminated, to be taken out of the state during the Second World War. Dimiter Mandradjiev was member of parliament who was the main Freemason who stood behind this idea to not exterminate, to not take any Jewish community member, any Jew from Bulgaria outside of Bulgaria to be killed. Also, there was, help me out with the name, Exarch Stefan. Exarch Stefan, a pope named Stefan, who also, as a prominent member of the Bulgarian social society, civil society, and of the Bulgarian clergy, and also a Freemason, was together with this attempt, fruitful, by the way, and thankfully fruitful, not to have any Jew given to the Nazis, given to the fascists outside of Bulgaria, and non-Jew was ever killed in the territory of Bulgaria prior to the war. And we are proud that we have saved the Bulgarian Freemasonic Society and the Bulgarian nation. We are proud that we have saved more than 55,000 Jews when this was a national position of almost all the European states that were in the alliance of the Axis. We were in the alliance of the Axis, but we did not give away any Jew. We did not give away any Roma member because, you know, extermination wasn't only for Jews, it was also for the Roma community. It was also for, also in some places, it was also for the Armenians. We did not, because always
those were very hard times, I think, and we should.
I'll tell you something else.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else, which just recalled I didn't mention. The year was 1900. Just a second, guys. Sorry. English, Bulgarian. I'm forgetting my history lessons, anyways. The cabinet members of the Alexander Malinov cabinet. He was the prime minister in 1903 when we had the proclamation of independence. We had in this cabinet only 2 members who are not Freemasons. The cabinet itself consisted 80%, 85% out of Freemasons who were Freemasons in different lodges, in Serbian lodges, in Romanian lodges, in Greek lodges, English lodges, in Portuguese or Lusitano lodges. They were members of these lodges, and they got together from the cabinet presided by the Alexander Malinov, the prime minister of Bulgaria at that time, and they made the proclamation of independence in 1903. And by the way, this independence was on the 22nd of September. It was meant to be somewhere in between the 5th and 15th of October. However, it was in deep secrecy. Only Masons knew what was happening. So this is what Masons do in Bulgaria. They build states, they save lives, they turn progress where it should be turned to.
Okay, thank you.
Leading national movement. Leading national progressive movement.
Absolutely.
All the time, officially.
Well, yeah, I understand that many members around the world have been part of independent liberation movements and fights, and we understand that the history of humankind is not a simple one, and we all have different kind of sensitiveness to it. So let's focus only for Freemasonry and contemporary challenge. Brother Plumman was saying about the anti-discrimination legislation that has been kind of a challenge in Bulgaria. Could you kindly tell what kind of mm, were you persecuted in Bulgaria recently? In after I don't know, after 90s or 2000s at least? Why you would need to be covered kind of by anti-discriminatory law? Was there any obligation or prohibition still active in Bulgaria today? So could you elaborate a little bit more? What is the case and why you needed to be protected, as I understood from your presentation today in 2020 now? If you
Well, I
can
don't think.
elaborate, or otherwise we just can skip it if it's sensitive issue.
No problem. It was
So,
very clear written and sent to all grandmasters in conference in North America.
that
You see, there exist several facts. The same situation was happened in Italy. The same situation was happened in England.
yes.
If
So
you have looked now on the internet, you will see a lot of temples vandalized. Also, the last info was for Shrine Hospital, which is shame on everybody. We see that we have a process. This process happened also in Bulgaria. For particular brothers which are working in like a prosecutors, like in this sector of jurisdiction, they need some special clarification if they are members or not members of some secret societies, but they are thinking about Freemasonry. It was clear, defined in the National Assembly. And that's why we want to clarify that that Freemasonry is not believing to these secret societies. We are enough open, and we have enough clear story about our leading of our progressive movements in all the country, in all the period.
so
That's why,
yeah, sorry.
yes, Freemasonry. That's why we ask about this.
So we may say that it's like coincided the period when you in England usually said enough is enough. That's kind of an approach.
Yes,
that
yes, it was happened after this very clear statement, enough of enough. But for Bulgarian, it was from different methods. We asked about statement from Commission of Anti-Discrimination, and everything was fixed there.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Understood. Brother Jawad, floor is yours.
Thank you, Brother David, for giving me the floor. And thank you, Brother Dimiter, for your very informative presentation. I have one small question. You said 4 Grand Lodges sharing the same territory, Bulgarian territory. 2?
3. We share officially the jurisdiction.
Well, are they in amity with each other?
Yes. 3 of the 4 Grand Lodges are in amity together. As I stated prior to this question, we work together. We can join each other's lodges. We can have mutual double membership. For example, I can be a member also of another Grand Lodge in the same jurisdiction. And you can, by the way, we had our conference like 1 month ago almost, which was organized by the Vegan Lodges. It's on our website. You can see it. We also had guests from the 4th Grand Lodge coming into this conference. It was an open, public open conference in terms of what Freemasonry does, what it has to do in order to get to spread the light of Freemasonry to the public.
What about National Grand Lodges of Bulgaria? today contain 4 Grand Lodges or 3 of them?
We are part of the National United Grand Lodges of Bulgaria, which is a Grand Lodge union. It is a union of 3 Grand Lodges out of the 4 existing Grand Lodges in the jurisdiction. We are open for the 4th Grand Lodge to join this umbrella organization and together to continue officially, because unofficially we work together on every level, but officially also on the level of GL to GL to work together.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Brother Jivat. I guess we don't have any more questions. We have viewers, 11 viewers right now on YouTube. And if you have any questions, please share them. Otherwise, we'll have to go through and we should be fine. Okay, we've been around almost 2 hours. So I think we've covered quite in detail the history and of Freemasonry in Bulgaria. I understand that in 1 hour presentation you cannot cover everything, every detail, and especially try to be neutral and academic. We understand that we have our feelings, our opinions, and we're trying to kind of be very constructive on Sapere Aude and try not to go into details which might have kind of different interpretations from different participants. So that's why we just try to see what we can offer each other as on Freemasonry. So thank you so much for interesting presentation and details. I guess we will go with Savino regarding the dates, and most probably we'll cover in more details the beginning, like 19th and early 20th century. So we will have even better understanding of Freemasonry in the roots, in the beginning, in Bulgaria or in that territory, whatever state it might have been there. So thank you for your time once again, Brother Dimiter. If you want to take the floor for final remarks, otherwise I'll, as I don't see any more questions anywhere, please.
It will be much better, Brother Plamen, to take the floor. I would just say thank you, Brother David, for this opportunity. It was a privilege to serve to Freemasonry on this event, because I believe I'm serving Freemasonry currently and the whole Brotherhood as a whole. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a privilege. Thank you, brothers, for your time. This will be up on YouTube, and I'll be very happy, Brother David, to share the presentation with all of you. Thank you. I believe Brother Plamen will want to say some words.
Please, floor is yours, Brother Plamen.
Thank you very much to you, David. Thank you very much to Brother Dimiter. Thank you very much for all brothers listening our short but very interesting story.
It hasn't been short. We've been here for 2 hours. That's the standard.
Yeah, I know. We're not unique. I know you're not unique.
Okay.
Similar situation everywhere. Question is that talking about this, we are not just informing you. We strongly believe that all of us, we shall look for some decision, common decision, to make union as much as possible, because we have very strong challenge in front of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Plamen, Brother Dimiter, for today's presentation and giving us additional information about the Freemasonry and its history in Bulgaria. So once again, I thank you, every participant, for interesting questions, remarks, notes. I will just remind everyone that today we discussed the brief history of Freemasonry in Bulgaria. Today was We had Sapere Aude number 104, and today is 1st of November 2020. And this concludes our lecture. Nahwamdis, that's goodbye in Georgian.